All right, today we're jumping into one of the weirdest and most fascinating stories in sleep science. It's the tale of a molecule called delta sleep-inducing peptide, or DSIP for short. And trust me, this is a real journey. It's got incredible promise, some truly bizarre contradictions, and a modern twist that keeps the whole mystery alive. And hey, this deep dive is brought to you by our friends over at infinitypeptides.com. So let's just start with this question. Imagine for a second, what if you could actually bottle the essence of a perfect night's sleep? I mean, really think about that. That was the dream, the holy grail that kicked this whole saga off. Could one single, tiny, natural chemical really be the master switch for our deepest, most restorative rest? To really get DSIP, you have to picture the 1970s. Scientists were basically on this massive treasure hunt. They were convinced there had to be a natural sleep molecule floating around in our bodies, some substance that could flip a switch and send you into a deep, profound sleep. You can imagine, for anyone struggling with insomnia, finding that would be everything. Now, the delta in DSIP, that's all about delta waves. Think of these as your brain's deep, slow, rhythmic pulse when you're in the deepest possible stage of sleep. These waves are the absolute signature of that heavy, restorative rest that helps your body repair itself. And that's exactly what scientists were trying to bottle. And then in 1977, it looked like they found it. A team in Switzerland, by studying the blood coming directly from the brains of sleeping rabbits, managed to isolate this one tiny little peptide. And when they injected it into other animals, boom, they seemed to fall right into that deep delta wave sleep. So they gave it a very confident name, delta sleep-inducing peptide. It really seemed like the hunt was over. And the initial results weren't just a little interesting, they were staggering. The buzz in the scientific world was huge. It felt like a genuine miracle for sleep was right around the corner. And I mean, look at this. The effect was just dramatic. When they injected DSIP straight into the brains of cats, the amount of time they spent in that super deep sleep more than doubled. It was like hitting a button for an express elevator, taking them straight down to the most restful floor of sleep. And this wasn't just some fleeting effect either. This deep sleep boost was so powerful it lasted for about 7 hours. 7! That suggested DSIP wasn't just a mild sedative. It was a powerful, long-lasting regulator. But this is where the story starts to get really weird. Just as the excitement was hitting its peak, these big, confusing cracks started to appear in the whole DSIP story. Researchers started getting results that just didn't make any sense if this was supposed to be a simple master sleep hormone. Okay, so the first huge red flag was a pretty basic question. Where in the brain is this stuff actually being made? And the answer was nobody could find it. They couldn't find the gene for it. They couldn't find the cells that were cranking it out. In biology, that's a massive problem. It's like finding a brand new car in your driveway with no idea what factory it came from. And then came the paradox that really baffled everyone. Remember how injecting it into the brain caused deep sleep? Well, when they injected it into the body, like into the belly, the complete opposite happened. The animals actually slept less. A real sleep hormone just shouldn't do that. It was a total contradiction. So naturally, with all this excitement and confusion, the next big step had to be human trials. This was the moment of truth. Could the amazing promise they saw in animals actually help people who couldn't sleep? Well, after they ran the gold standard studies, placebo-controlled, super rigorous, the official verdict was a huge disappointment. The scientific conclusion was that DSIP was, and I'm quoting here, not likely to be of major therapeutic benefit for chronic insomnia. Any improvements were just tiny, barely even there. The miracle cure? Well, it seemed like a total bust. And this is where the story should end, right? But it doesn't. Despite that official scientific verdict, DSIP never really vanished. Today, if you look into biohacking communities and wellness circles, you'll find people reporting exactly the kinds of things those early scientists dreamed of. Deeper sleep, waking up less, lower anxiety, even really vivid dreams. Some smaller, more recent studies even back some of this up, finding it helped people fall asleep about 22 minutes faster. The puzzle just won't go away. So, after all these decades of research, excitement, and confusion, where does that leave us with DSIP? Is it a forgotten failure from the 70s, or is it a misunderstood tool? Let's try and put the pieces together. This table really nails the whole journey, I think. For the early scientists, it was the miracle sleep molecule. Then, for later, more careful research, it turned into a scientific cautionary tale. A story about getting too excited too soon. And today, it's carved out this little space as a niche biohacking tool used by people who swear they get the benefits that mainstream science just couldn't prove on a bigger scale. In the end, the curious case of DSIP is a great reminder that science isn't always a straight line. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? It forces you to ask if some discoveries aren't really failures at all, but are maybe just misunderstood, or maybe even ahead of their time. It makes you think about what other secrets might be hiding out there in experiments that we all dismissed as dead ends. And that brings us to the end of this explainer. Thank you so much for joining me. This was brought to you by infinitypeptide.com.